Hi everybody, this is Tor Storley, and I am back with another video. So in this third video here, we'll continue diving into DuckDB, and I will be using the CLI for this one. Try to keep them short so it doesn't take too long to get through these videos. So I think everybody likes that. So let me start with open a database. So first I need to open DuckDB, and please check out my previous videos if you want to know more about the details of this. So here is my shell, and let's expand this out. So I want to open, in the previous video, I was making a macro that talked to Yahoo Finance and brought in some data from Yahoo Finance. We're going to be using the stocks database. So I'm going to open the stocks database like this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to also show some other commands. So in this video, I want to go through, a few different cool things that DuckDB have, and you may or may not be aware of, but it kind of opens up some more thought-provoking ways of doing database work that wasn't existing before. So another method you could have used, instead of open this like this, let me close this one more time here, and let's open it again. And in this case, you can also open a database and a pre-existing one, but you are afraid of you want to change any objects. What you can do, you can use this read-only flag. So when you say open -- read-only, and then you open up your database. So when you hit that now, it's opened. Now, if you try to make a change to the database, you're going to get an error. So here I prepared a little statement. So if you look here, I'm trying to create a new table from a CSV file. So what happens when I try to do that? Well, notice what it says. Invalid input error, cannot execute statement of type create on database stocks, which is attached in read-only mode. So you can prevent any changes to your database by using this read-only flag. All right, so let me close this again and let that go out of the connection go away. Now what I want to do is I want to open as normal because I want to make some changes to this database. So let me open up DuckDB again and bring it over, and let's expand this, paste this in again, open. Now we can make changes because it doesn't have the read-only flag. So the first thing I want to do now is I want to just, show the database. So what you can do is, and I went through this before, but I'm just kind of going through it quickly here. And I can also create a table if it doesn't exist. And here you can see there is a table already called stocks in this database. So let's use this pragma table info function and pass in the stocks table. So as you can see, this is what it looks like. It has a primary key, and I'll get back to this because I want to drop this table and maybe recreate it again. But for now, this is what it looks like when you use this pragma. So here is a statement that says, describe information schema.columns. So I'm looking for columns. So as you can see, there's lots and lots and lots of columns here because these are not just my tables in here. There's system information too. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff here, and they give you column type and so forth. One method we can use too is we can select star from instead of saying describe it. So as you can see, it always cuts off these in the middle here. This is called a box format, by the way. But as you can see, in my table here, the stocks table, here's the column names, here's the ordinal position, etc. Another information schema query I can do is for tables. So when I do that, you can see you're getting slightly different output. There's still one table in here, so that's fine. I created a macro that called Yahoo Finance, and I passed in some variables. And by doing so, return data from Yahoo Finance. Now, what I've done in this video, I changed it a little bit. So this is the macro I've created. You pass in symbol, interval, and range, and they will be populated down here, as you can see. Here is this concatenation function that builds the query string. That's going to be the API call to Yahoo Finance, and it fills in these parameters, if you will, the symbol, interval, and range. So you can actually call this to get data from different time intervals and different ranges, etc. So check out my previous videos for more detail about this macro. One thing I done though is I added this symbol. So now I can actually include this in case I want to insert into this table more than one symbol, meaning for different companies, then I need to know where's the data coming from, what does it belong to. So by doing it this way, I add the symbol. And the way I did that is simply use the same method as before. We talked about this. But now I'm drilling into this meta, as you can see, meta and symbol. That comes from that same JSON file we had last time. So check out that video if you want more details about how we went about doing this. So check out part 2 video for that. The only thing I like I said, I added this particular symbol. So repeats per row. So that's the actual macro. So let me run that again. What I can do is because I can replace it if it has changed. So right now I replaced the previous one that may or may not have that thing. Now, if you want to call a macro like this, you can simply run a select statement like this. And, let's just put in well, let's leave it at Apple, I guess. And this was going to go for a range of 1 month daily data. So all you have to do is select from this because it's a table function. And you're passing in your parameters like so. It goes against the internet. And if I can get it to run, I'll hit enter again. And it comes back right away pretty much. And you can see here's the data. It came back and today is the 20th of August. And that was the latest time that it found data for Apple stock. So as you can see, you're getting some information back from Yahoo Finance this way. Again, check out my previous video for how I constructed this thing. Now, one thing I didn't show you last time is you don't have to necessarily make a permanent macro. I could use the same code base as I did for the macro, but I could use something called a prepared statement. So you say prepare, and then a name, and whatever you want to call it, get Yahoo data, I call it here, as, and then here is that same query again. The only difference is notice down here that I'm creating parameters, and you prefix those with a $sign, as you can see here. So in my previous macro up here, as you can see, I was passing in as underscore symbol. But when you use the prepared statement, you need to put a $sign in front of it. So $sign underscore symbol. And then you have the same with the interval here, $sign, and then the range. So I could run this, and now I have a prepared statement. And to call a prepared statement, you use the execute function. So as you can see here, execute the name of the prepared statement, parenthesis, and then you're passing in your parameters, but you don't put a $sign in here. The $sign is only in the main code here. So notice I just call it underscore symbol, underscore interval, and underscore range. So when I run this now, you can see I'm getting the data back. And I passed in a different ticker, as you can see, or symbol, and a different time range, as you can see, 5 days only. So that's how you can use a prepared statement. Now, if you want to get rid of that prepared statement, the deallocate keyword like this, that will get rid of the prepared statement. So now that's gone. So the next thing I wanted to do then, I wanted to create a new table. And if it doesn't exist, I want to create it. So to figure out whether it exists or not, I can look for it. So I can say show tables, for example. And you can see there is a stocks table. So I want to get rid of that because I want to recreate this, and so I can show you some stuff. So I'm going to say drop table stocks. Okay, now let's go hit the up arrow and get back to our show tables again. And as you can see, now the table is gone. So what I want to do is I want to create a new table, but this table is a little special. So let me show you what I mean. When I create this table node, the last piece of this, I insert the symbol as a varchar, timestamp, and so forth. But notice I create a primary key. And my primary key is going to be based on the symbol combination with the timestamp. So that's how it's going to be a unique record. So I'm adding that primary key in here. So let me run that like this. Let's show the tables again and make sure it's there. And here we go. So we're back in business. Now, one thing we can also do, we can go against this information schema and look for table constraints. Why? Because I just created a primary key. So I want to see if I have any constraints related to that. And sure enough, when you look at this, the stocks table has a primary key, as you can see here, but it also has check constraints, as you can see. It actually put in some extra metadata in here for us. Now what I can do, I can use a really cool command in DuckDB. Remember, we only have a few columns here, like timestamp, open, close, high, low, and so forth, right? But if you're really lazy, then you don't want to type up all these columns. What if you had 100 columns, for example? One way you can do this, I can call my macro again, so it goes against Yahoo Finance and insert some data into this new table from us. But notice how it works. Insert into stocks by name. You can actually, because I created that primary key, I can simply use the keywords by name now. And it will find it and it will insert it accordingly. So notice now, it will map it up for you. So I'm going to hit enter. And then I want to see the results. So let's just check and see if we got any data back from Yahoo Finance. So I'll paste that here. From stocks, again, really cool syntax for DuckDB. You don't have to select star from stocks. You can just say from stocks and it brings all the data back from that table. See, here it is. And so it inserted all the only thing is that I have a varchar setting here. So ideally, I should have, in my macro, I should have made sure I don't get the quotes back. So I had to do a little extra work for that. But it still works. It's just that it's not so clean, you know. One thing I can also do is I can look to see how many macros and functions do I have. Well, you can use this DuckDB_functions to find out all the functions in your database. And as you can see, there's a lot of them because some of them are system functions too. But I'm interested in this last one here, and that's from this table, right? So how could I really get that isolated? Well, I could use this one here, for example. So notice here, I'm querying out certain field names from here, and then I go against DuckDB functions, which is what you see above here. And then I say where function type is scalar, okay? And function name like BA. So what does that mean? Well, I'm looking for a scalar function. Well, mine is not a scalar function. Mine is a table macro, right? So I'm not going to find that, but I'm not looking for that one. I'm looking for some function that starts with a BA. And it will become apparent in a little bit here when we get to it. So as you can see, it found all the functions that starts with BA right here. And that is of type scalar. So that's another query you can use to find information about what's happening in your database. Another way I could have looked for my get Yahoo Finance is like this. Now here I say select star from DuckDB functions, where database name is stocks over here, right? And the function name like get. So it's basically looks for the word get here, right? So we can run that. And sure enough, it finds my get Yahoo Finance table macro function. So here I'm using a text function. Notice what it says. And after the where clause, and function name dot starts with get. So you can actually use like chaining kind of functions to drill in. So that's another cool thing about DuckDB. And that's sure you get the same result as you can see as above. So whether you use the word like or you use the start with, and there's many string functions, or text function I should say, you can just look it up in the documentation. And I want to get some detailed information here. So I go like this, and it looks like this, but it cuts off these things, as you can see, dot, dot, dot in the center. So I don't know, what those columns are. So how can I do that? Well, I said in a previous video when you can change the mode. Now, let me correct myself a little bit in this third one because now I have clarified it. You can say dot mode, and then you can choose box or line or others. Now, mistake I was doing before, I put a semicolon. There's not supposed to be a semicolon. So by saying dot mode line with no semicolon, And then I can run my query again. So I'm going to copy that one more time here. And let me get rid of this, paste this, and run it. Now notice I'm getting for each column here, I'm getting a lot of data. So here is the volume column name, as you can see. And if it has any information about it, it puts it into this whole list output, the line view. So for each column, you're getting a lot of information. So depending how much you've done in here, all these will be filled in accordingly. So this is another way you can make sure you can see every column in your data set. Okay, in order to get it back to our box mode, all you have to say is mode. Just have to say mode, box, like this, with no semicolon. And then if I say from stocks or something like that, now it's back to box mode, as you can see. So that's pretty cool to calculate rate of returns on this stock. So I'm going to use my stocks table now, and I prepared this with statement. And that with statement, as you can see, is a CTE, or common table expression method. And here what I do, I say select symbol, timestamp, adjusted close, and then I'm doing the rate of return. And I'm using something called log returns. And this, you can use the ln function or natural log function and take the adjusted close over here, the second one, and take that one and notice what I'm doing. I'm lagging by 1 the previous. So I will take this adjusted close divided by the previous one. So I'm using the lag function by 1 row. And then I sort it, so I make sure I get the right data. I sort it by the timestamp, as you can see here. And that's ascending in this case, because you want the second one divided on the first, the third one divided on second, and so forth. So you need to be ascending order here. And then what you can do is to order it by timestamp. And I call this return, this field. And I'm querying that where, notice I used double quotes because these shows up as double quotes, but I put in a single quote around it, so it's recognized as a varchar. Then I select from this CTE above, but I also add this function, and that was the reason I ran that query before, where I looked for any function that starts with BA. Okay, you might remember that from above. Yeah, right here, this query. Remember, I was looking for BA. So now I found that bar function, and that's the one I'm using here. Notice what I'm doing. I pass in the return field that comes from the CTE, but then that bar wants a min value and a max value, and then it wants a length of the output, basically how many bars it's supposed to create in one row. So if you look at this, I'm trying to do this dynamic. I use this bar function, pass in the return from above here, which is calculated here. And then I say the min is select min from this, from the return calculation here. And select max from this return calculation. So it picks the highest and lowest return. And then I use those as my min and max. And then I simply use 40 as a step, if you will, how long the bars will be. And I call it return bar. And then this, of course, comes from this common table expression. So now we can run this. Let's see what it looks like. And notice it created rate of returns like this. And then it created these bars, as you can see. And that's based on the min and max of this particular column here, based on the adjusted close column. So anyways, like I said, I want to keep this video short. And it's been 20 minutes already. And I'm going to stop here, and then we'll continue in the next one. I hope you like this video. And if you do, please give me a like. And consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't done so yet. Have a fantastic rest of the day or night, wherever you happen to be.